It's Moonlight Ponderings. This is our very first episode.
Woohoo!
Yay! I'm Severine Nocturne.
And I'm Ronnie Moonborn.
And I'm going with Firechild for the time being until a suitable magical name strikes me.
So this show is going to be talking about various pagan and other non-mainstream media.
Mainstream!
Non-mainstream religions. We're going to talk about personal stuff, obviously, paths and what have you. And then there might be topics of interest that come up, like if we're hearing about something going on in the community that we find very interesting. I guess the best example I have of that is probably like the Trump curse thing, which I don't agree with, but anyway, off topic. We'll probably play some games. If we find tutorials and things like that, we'll share them with you guys too. So without further ado, I'm going to let Ronnie take over asking some questions. I'm going to go first talking about my personal path.
Alright, so here we go on Severine's personal path. How long have you been on the path you are on?
Gosh, this is going to sound really insignificant to everybody else because I'm sure a lot of people have been on it a lot longer than me, but only about a year. Not quite a year yet. It'll be a year in October. I'd been thinking about it quite a while before then, but nothing really set it off until just about a year ago. I was previously Christian, very, very Christian, and I had the lifestyle that I was supposed to have as a Christian and all that other stuff, but it just wasn't satisfying, and I felt like I wasn't in the right place. So I've been kind of seeking, what's right for me personally, and this has just felt right the further along I've gone with things.
And what would you call your path?
I'd call it more of an eclectic witch. I wouldn't say I follow a Wiccan tradition or really specifically a specific pagan tradition. It's really more eclectic. I take from a lot of different belief styles, so.
Okay. So any specialties or practices that you do?
I'm very big into crystal magic. I've just recently started working with astral projection, and that's something that I really enjoy doing, and I feel like it sort of helps with my personal growth, doing a lot of traveling. So yeah.
Any deities that you identify with?
Well, my patron is Melik Taus, and he is big in fairy tradition and also in Yazidi, which is in the Middle East. He's a peacock god. I've always had this thing with peacocks. The listeners and viewers don't know this because, but for a long time I was just going everywhere and I was either seeing a peacock or peacock feathers or what have you, and someone mentioned, oh, well, that sounds like maybe your matron's calling out to you, Hera or Isis, and both of those are very nurturing, motherly figures, and it just didn't sit right with me. It didn't make me feel like that was what it was, and through my own personal research, I found Melik Taus. And it's been a very powerful experience so far. As far as matron goes, the southeastern island Java goddess Nyai Lara, she's also called Nyai Roro Kadul, and I'll write that down. I know that everyone's probably like, what the heck? That's a mouthful of a name. She's the goddess of the sea. She's a mermaid goddess. And she causes tsunamis and stuff. It's pretty awesome.
Which is ironic for you because you're terrified of tsunamis.
Yeah, I've always had this really terrifying thing of like, you know, I have a lot of nightmares where I'm present for a tidal wave happening. And I have this weird sort of like, I don't really like to be in water a lot, so I don't know if maybe it's sort of like, you know, I need a little bit of what I'm afraid of, I guess. I don't know. So.
Are you out to anyone about your religious beliefs?
I'm like in a weird halfway in, halfway out the broom closet situation. My immediate friends and family know, but because of where I work and sort of the area that we live in, it's not a highly accepted thing, so I can't be out, you know, for just anyone to know. I wish it was the case, but, you know.
We do live in the Bible Belt.
Yeah.
Firechild, any questions come to mind for you to ask?
Not at this moment.
I just want to make sure everyone has a chance to speak. I'm sure I'll think of many questions later that we'll address at another time, I guess. I guess we'll move on.
Okay, Ronnie's turn.
Yay.
So, how long have you been on your path?
Let's see, Firechild. You helped me get into this path. I want to say it was 2011.
That sounds about right.
Yeah,
for you.
about 2011, 10, 11, somewhere along those lines. That's when I got involved in. It started out, I believe, as Wiccan, and now it's kind of evolved into a jack of all the metaphysical trades. I identify as a witch. I don't like the term warlock. I feel like it has too many negative things attached to it. Same with wizard. When you hear wizard, you think Harry Potter. Thank you, Hollywood. Love the books, but
There are some great books.
and I'm not hating on the series at all by any means. But I just feel like there's some negative connotations when it comes to calling yourself a wizard or a warlock now, because people just roll their eyes a little bit. And it is called witchcraft, not warlock craft. And I don't hold a gender or anything to that or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, that sort of answers the question of what would you call yourselves, and why. So what are some of your specialties and practices?
I have discovered that I'm very clairvoyant. And I do that through tarot. And within the last year, I've just gotten very good at tarot. And you can back me up every on a lot of my predictions coming true.
Yeah, he's gotten very off book too. We've gotten to a point where he doesn't really read it. He more so checks behind himself to make sure that he read it right.
And I do a lot of past life readings. So I feel like that is one of my main gifts. I also do a lot of candle making and incense making. I pride myself on my incense making. It's like Ursula's cauldron here. I just throw stuff in. I'm like this, and this, and then... But it works out.
Poor unfortunate souls. Deities. What are there deities you work with?
That was hard for me for the longest time because I grew up Christian, like a lot of people do here in the South. And my parents are pastors, reverends, one or the other. And so they're very strict about stuff like that. And the fact that I am also pansexual kind of plays into that, like veering away from that. But here lately, probably in the last few months, the god Apollo has spoken to me. And I've really identified with him, and so he is my patron. it's a very much the communication relationship that we have, and I'm very grateful for it. And that's ironic because I am not about the sunlight, but he is also a god of prophecy, which, plays into me a lot, and a god of healing, which, because I'm into healing too. I do a lot of chakra healing. I'm saying I'm a lot. But I'm just happier. I've noticed since finding him, I've been happier. As far as matrons go, I'm feeling the triple Hecate happening, which for those of you who don't know is Hecate, Selene, and Artemis. And I was not looking for them because once I found Apollo, I was like, I'm not in a rush to find a matron. Let me spend some time with Apollo.
That was actually a conversation we had. We were making candles for our patrons, and we were both sitting here just like, I'm not really in a hurry to find a matron. And then our matrons were like, oh, really?
Yeah, exactly. It's just one of those things that happen. You just kind of let it happen. But yeah, I guess that's it.
Okay. Well, now we will move on to Firechild. I think she's really probably been practicing the longest out of all of us. Is that a correct assumption?
Oh, goodness. I suppose so. I started hearing the whisperings of my familiar, around 2006, 2007. But, sad to say, I didn't really recognize him for who he is until about 2010. But in the meantime, I had started exploring things. I was really into energy work just because of the situations that I found myself in. There was a lot of negativity. And so I found myself reaching out to crystals for help. Ended up shattering a few in the process, just trying to get the hang of managing my own energy, trying not to put so much out there, which sometimes I still have some issues with, accidentally affecting other people.
I apologize if you hear this rustling. I'm reaching for one of my crystals after he's calling me out right now.
That happens a lot, and
there you go.
That's actually one of the things that I love about crystals. If you listen, if you're open to it, the ones that want to be with you will speak to you.
I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm a terrible person. Okay.
No, you're fine.
But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at as far as serious practice. It's been more so in the last 6 or 7 years that I've been trying to really focus on certain things. I really love tarot and fire magic, which is probably the reason I started attracting so many dragons. Let's see, we have about 7 or 8 living in the house that are just with me, and Severine has...
I have one, and he is a little devil.
Oh, he's adorable. He's just a little mischief maker, which...
We will go into that because we're going to do a moon ritual episode, and he woke up on a moon ritual, and I feel like we'll talk about him in detail then, and some of the other ones too. And I do want to kind of do a dragon-specific episode at some point.
Yay!
So, so was the familiar... You said familiar, familiar. So was that how you got on your path, or did someone else introduce you?
As far as being introduced to my path, it's something that I contemplated in solitude for a number of years prior to actually really trying to explore it. About 10 years ago, I had been thinking about it, but once again, given where I grew up in the Bible Belt, it's not an easy transition to try to make. I was absolutely terrified, I'm not going to lie. But I ran up with certain different people when I started college who had been on the path for a while. And, I talk to people who believe different things, who approach things differently, and I started doing rituals with them and started kind of exploring what made me feel whole and complete. And so around 2007, or 2010 rather, I started trying to branch out and do more of my own rituals by myself. And I actually started reaching out to Ronnie just because, for whatever reason, at that point in my life, I was in a very vulnerable position, and his energy just had a really grounding effect because mine was so erratic. It was just a really good combination, and I feel like I just kind of dragged him into my world, kicking and screaming, but I don't think he complains as much anymore.
There were some things
not always
that I was not
fault.
prepared for.
Not all my fault.
My first ritual with them was a very, whoa thing. It was scary. Let me put it like that.
Sometimes I think it's good to have that, though,
That's how I met my spirit guide, was through that ritual, and he came in a not so subtle way. We had a window, there was a door to the balcony. It was locked, mind you, and closed and locked. And while we're in the midst of this somewhat scary ritual, the door just bursts open and wind blows up and just surrounds me like a cloak of protection. And
wow.
I got scolded.
Which, just to kind of clarify, that particular ritual, that was once again during a time when I found myself very vulnerable, and there were a lot of negative energies trying to capitalize on that. So my familiar realized that apparently there was some sort of, I guess, kind of energy beacon associated with me, and so we were going to go straight to the source of the negative energies directing themselves at me and shut the gate from that side. And that's kind of where we were at. The beings were very aggressive. Thankfully my familiar was there, and Ronnie's spirit guide showed up and was just not having any of that either. So we were able to close that portal, and since then the two of us have gotten pretty good at kind of feeling things like that out when we travel, when we're out and about. And then
certain areas were like, nope.
Yeah, and then it was kind of funny because, like Severine said, she was always heavily Christian, and I felt kind of awkward having certain conversations with her, but she was one of those Christian friends that didn't make me feel bad for being pagan. And then she, we were just kind of out and about one day, the three of us just look at each other and we're just like, so nope. So I don't know what's going on here, but this is a nope and we need to leave. And
that's part of really what got me into it, is that, I was realizing, like the things that I'm feeling, this sort of sense that I've got about, this is not a good place to be. That's not really a Christian thing.
Well, it's not heavily vocalized within the Christian community. I've met Christian people who did talk about things like that, but it's pretty rare, when they're so open about talking about, feeling bad energies and all of this stuff. So that's just kind of one way to, just kind of realize maybe there's something different out there for me.
Yeah, and that definitely was part of it for me. And then too, just feeling kind of out of place, and I wasn't in a loving environment, and
I was just so bored
with
the Christian religion. And no offense to people who are Christian, I just didn't feel it. I felt like there was a supreme being who did love me. I do believe that, but I like to refer to him as the All Spirit, and Apollo is a part of that All Spirit.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like I like to say, and this is about anything in life. sexual preference, religious preference, whatever have you. You know, if you're in a line behind someone who's getting a meatball sub and you really want ham and cheese, you are not going to yell at them because they're not getting ham and cheese. You are going to get what you want. So I feel like ultimately that's what needs to be the focus, and we spend too much time focused on our differences and who's in the wrong and who's in the right, and sometimes I think everyone can be right for themselves.
In the words of RuPaul, unless those bitches are paying your bills, pay them no mind.
Amen.
Yes.
So where were we?
What deities
Yeah.
do you recognize with or have any?
Actually, before that one, what are some of your specialties? We've kind of talked about, I think all of us have a little bit of clairvoyance and a sense about things, but you've got some other ones.
Oh goodness, I don't know about that. I have been accused on the occasion of being an empath.
She is an empath.
Oh my goodness.
It is so freaky. She'll message me and she'll be like, "How are you today?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, how does she know I'm not having a good day?"
She also is very in touch with the spiritual realm.
Oh my goodness, you guys are too much. I don't know about all of that. I hear a lot of things. I've seen a lot of things, and that kind of led me to my third eye awakening ceremony, which was pretty terrible. I won't lie. It was a rough experience. Once again, that was during a very vulnerable time for me, and considering how it went about, it was like you're sitting there, squinting your eyes shut as hard as you can, trying not to watch a movie, and someone just forces your eyes open, and it's like you're seeing all of these things you don't want to see. And it was very overwhelming. It was, like I said, it was just terrible the way that it happened. But I'm glad that it happened because it also deepened my sensitivity to a lot of the things that seem to be wanting to attack me for whatever reason. And I've had a lot of people give me opinions on things, and one of the things that I touched on a little earlier, but it was almost a consensus that people kept saying that it seemed as though there was some kind of strange energy portal about me that other things can be attracted to sometimes. So that's one of the reasons my familiar tends to be very guarded and be on edge. And if this portal thing is something that it was awakened subconsciously or what have you, it's actually led me to encounter a lot of other beings, human and otherwise, that ended up staying with me to help and guide me, and it's just led to some really interesting experiences. So yeah, I guess, like I said, I've been accused of being an empath, and then there's the whole fire affinity. Yeah, that's kind of gotten a little out of hand, especially when dragons were concerned. They tend to get excited around fires, which I don't mind. No one's ever gotten hurt. Not due to the fire. That was a separate situation. We'll cover that in the dragons episode.
Yes, we will.
Once again, not my fault. I feel like in some ways these two kind of I won't say blame because there's nothing malicious, but it's like they kind of look at me when it comes to a lot of the weird spiritual stuff that goes on, and I'm like, well, I told you I was a very strange individual to begin with, so hey, you entered at your own risk there.
Yeah, just stay tuned for later episodes to hear how I was murdered and resurrected.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
So, on to next is deities. What deities are you working with?
So my Lord. Oh, dear gods. My patron is Ganesh, which was pretty interesting. I never felt strongly. I wasn't like Severine. I didn't like grow up loving, elephants or mice or not too many other things associated with Ganesh. Although I have to say I've always admired elephants just because they are such deeply intuitive and intelligent beings, and they're also very empathetic. So I guess I was kind of drawn to them in a way, but it wasn't a way that I actually recognized until a few years ago. And it seems like elephants were following me. I was seeing them everywhere, and I was buying a lot of elephant stuff, and I just kind of woke up one day and scratched my head a bit, and I was like, okay, Ganesh, I hear you. Okay, I guess we're doing this. Which was actually a relief, just because there was a lot of flux, spiritual flux, just a lot of things changing in my life, and I wasn't sure if I could get past some of the obstacles that were set before me. I knew that there were some things I wanted to do, but the obstacles seemed so huge until Ganesh stepped in and really started showing me how to utilize my own power, which honestly I've undervalued all my life, in order to kind of start, affecting some changes in my life to allow me to progress on my path. So definitely Ganesh. And as far as a matron, I'm hearing some whisperings, and I've received some messages, but as far as a strong call, I'm heading in that direction, but I haven't actually pledged fealty to anyone yet, so we'll see how that goes.
Maybe in a later episode we'll find out. I wanted to backtrack a little bit. You were talking about how you didn't realize how spiritually powerful you were, and I just kind of want to reemphasize that as this, yes, I feel that you are, and you weren't utilizing it back then.
Oh my god, he gives me too much credit. I'm gonna tell you guys that now. he really does, and
well, I think that's kind of a universal thing for everybody. Is there's something you don't realize about yourself, and that's sort of what the guides and matrons and patrons are there for, is to show you, hey, maybe you like working with crystals, but have you tried it this way? Maybe you like working with fire, but have you tried it this way? And, try to focus on what you're doing, and instead of just letting it kind of randomly happen. Although sometimes random things are awesome too. Not to shoot that down. Just
it's one of the reasons I love fireworking, just because there's some awesome randomness that happens. But once again, it hasn't really gone awry yet. Not in and of itself.
So I just thought of a question that I'm going to ask both of you, and you can feel free to ask me. Kind of pertains to what we're talking about. Do you recognize any of the Wiccan or pagan holidays?
I like Samhain a lot. I feel like there's a very strong connection to that, but I've never, and that's part of how I kind of knew that I wasn't Wiccan, was like, I'm really not practicing Beltane and Ostara and things like that, which not saying I wouldn't like to, but it just seems like that's not the focus for me. I feel like I sort of go probably more off the moon a lot of the time. I like moon phases when it comes to rituals and stuff, but it's not necessary either. And we've done stuff when there's been a big storm, or when there's been a...
yes. Storm magic is amazing. I've always felt a revitalizing feeling in the presence of storms. So yeah, I love it whenever we're just in the middle of a ritual during a storm, and you get that jolt of energy. It's so powerful.
Oh, I should have brought Stormbringer. That's the name of my wand. It uses chaos magic, and we've noticed that every time I've used it in a ritual, there's been a big thunderstorm afterwards.
Yeah, no exaggeration either. Every single time.
So that's how my wand got the name Stormbringer.
But as far as the oh goodness, which I've ever since I started seriously on my path, I love Samhain. That's my favorite. I love the concept of a time of year when it's really encouraged for you to just take a moment to reflect on the fact that you're exiting one phase of, of the year, the growing seasons, to, heading toward the quiet place. And at this transition, you have this night where it's possible, it's easier to reach into the spirit realm and commune with those who have gone on ahead of us. And I've also celebrated Yule the past few
Yule
years.
Is another one, yeah.
We have celebrated Yule together. Mm-hmm. I remember that. Firechild made these delicious purses, I think they were called.
Oh goodness. Samaritan's purses. I think that's what they were called.
And I mean, they were delicious. It's just, but and I think for Yule though, you made strawberry chicken.
Oh, the strawberry Cornish hens. They are delicious.
And you would not think strawberry would go with chicken like that, but
it does.
It does. It was delicious. But
there's a lot of things you wouldn't think, but then you're surprised. Like me and Firechild just went to we went shopping, and the lady was like, "Do you want to try this avocado smoothie?" And we're both like,
sure.
Yeah, but I'm kind of scared at the same time.
It was delicious, by the way.
Yeah. The moral of the story is, sometimes it sounds like it would not be a good idea, and then it is.
But this year, I believe, this year was actually my first year observing Ostara. So that was really fun, because I was used to celebrating, for the quieting times, and now, observing for the reawakening of the Earth Mother was just, a really powerful experience for me. And I just felt like, I could kind of see where some more things were changing in my life for the better. So if you are into the celebrations, I think, it's kind of a good way for you to kind of observe your progress through the calendar year. And if you're not, there's plenty of other ways that you could observe. Like Severine said, you could do moon phases, which she and I have done a lot of moon phase work together. And on different occasions, Ronnie and I did moon phase work together.
All the full moon rituals.
Oh my goodness!
Well, I think
many good times.
That part of it is, like with the way all of us kind of work, and we have, we've got a lot of stuff going on in our lives. It's kind of hard to focus. Oh man, I got this holiday that I need to take off for, or whatever. Sometimes I think you have to go more off of what's right for you. But if you feel like it's important, and that's not me saying, oh, well, it's not important. That's me saying it's not as important for me, although I would like to at some point, probably, working that.
For me, Samhain's about the biggest one for me, but I've always loved Halloween.
Yeah.
And it kind of plays into that for me.
Halloween was always my favorite holiday.
I mean, I love Christmas, don't get me wrong, but that's more for my family, whereas Halloween is more for myself spiritually and Samhain.
So I am trying to observe more of the Sabbats, just because I do like the fact that each one has their own focus and their own meaning. So I take that time to kind of contemplate where I'm at. And another thing that I've also tried to observe would be the Mercury retrogrades, just because I have seen some crazy things happening where I just feel like, I cannot find my words. I'm having trouble talking to people or talking through things, and then I come to realize, oh, thanks Mercury, thanks a lot. But if you turn that around, it's also a really good time to harness a lot of energy, since retrograde is another really good flux period. So it doesn't have to be bad. You just have to learn how to utilize it in a way that's going to really benefit you.
And I definitely agree with that. And we could get into that topic on another episode too.
I agree. To go into more in depth.
Because I kind of would like to go into the importance of astrology and stuff. There's a lot of, I feel like, religious practices that we'll go into on here. Like, all of us work with chakra. All of us.
Which is Hindu, if I'm not mistaken, isn't it? Or is it?
Yeah.
Hindu or Buddhist?
I apologize for our ignorance.
We will clarify that when we know.
I've seen it. I've seen it a lot associated with Hinduism.
I'm actually going to answer this question. Google.
The power of technology.
When in doubt, you can Google it.
See, the modern witch has all sorts of tools for their crafting, including Google.
Hashtag secular witchcraft.
Just while we're looking for this, if there's any topics you guys want us to talk about, please leave your comments below. If you're listening to the podcast, you can email us. We will leave our email for you. Because we want to hear your opinions.
Okay, so we were right about both. The concept is found particularly in the tantric traditions of Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism.
Oh, good, yeah, because I knew that it was more Hinduism that I had seen, and I was pretty sure about some Buddhist traditions associated with it. So yeah, we were all right.
Everybody was right. See, that goes back to what I said. Everybody's right for what they need. So with that, I think this is probably a good place to stop for now. We're going to go into plenty other topics. You guys can check us out. Leave comments, like and subscribe. There will be actual videos and things like that too. We'll want to do some tutorials. Ronnie and I have been working with candles, and we should have some of those up for you guys too, and some tarot readings likely. But the topics you can expect for the next few episodes, we're going to go back into the gifts and magical talents, because there's some stuff that, we want to talk about, like the fact that Ronnie can make stoplights do whatever the heck he wants.
You mad at my gift?
But it's the truth.
She mad.
I am an impatient person, okay? And if I need a stoplight to turn green for the next 5 miles,
Oh my goodness.
it just tends to happen.
We'll go into more in-depth stuff for tarot. That's a big one for all of us. All of us do tarot. I feel like Ronnie's got a really good hand intuitively on it right now. And
I'm gonna blush.
don't blush. Scrying. There's different scrying techniques. You can do it with crystals. We've recently learned one with wax, which we will talk about.
Oh my goodness.
Crystal healing, and then obviously we're going to go into the moon phase rituals. There's going to be a lot more. I've got like a huge list of topics, and if you guys hear something and you want us to talk about it more, or we need to make a 2-parter or whatever, just let us know. And with that, we'll put this to a close. Bye-bye.
Bye, love y'all.
Blessed be
What they said.